Welcome to EduRev.
Hello, welcome to EduRev. My name is Shiuli Shaha. I did my bachelor's in economics from Jadavpur University and currently I am pursuing master's in economics from JNU, Delhi. In this session, we are going to study about production possibility frontier. Earlier in a previous session, we studied about the central problems that an economy faces. We studied in detail what are the economic, how to allocate resources in economy, how to produce economy, and what kinds of goods and services to produce in an economy. In this session, we are going to analyze those questions using the help of PPF. We will first introduce the concept of PPF, what is the meaning of PPF, and then we will try to understand with the help of an example. Okay, let's move on. In business analysis, the production possibility frontier is a curve illustrating the varying amounts of two products that can be produced when both depend on the same finite resources. This is the catchword, finite. In an economy, the resources that we have are finite and limited, whereas the demand and the wants of the people are unlimited. So we have to allocate the resources in such a way so that different kinds of goods can be produced in the economy and the economy reaches its highest possible welfare level, right? So PPF demonstrates that the production of one commodity may increase only if the production of the other commodity decreases. This is the reason for the downward sloping curve of PPF, right? It is very intuitive. If we increase the production of one sector, we have to take resources out from some other sector. So in that other sector, the production will fall. So since the resources are limited, to increase the production of one commodity, we have to decrease the production of some other commodity. For example, if the economy prioritizes on giving more importance on education and health sector, then more resources will be allocated to that sector and less will be available and allocated to some other sector, say defense sector, right? So PPF is a decision-making tool for managers deciding on the optimum product mix for the company. So PPF is a very helpful tool for the managers to decide how much of the optimum product that should be produced in the economy according to the demand conditions of demand conditions that are prevalent in the economy. PPF is also referred to as the production possibility curve or the transformation curve. Now, transformation curve, why? Because we are transforming resources from one sector to another, right? So the name itself suggests the meaning. There's a very good example where Professor Samuelson, an eminent economist, used this entire explaining of working of an economy using the help of PPF. So Samuelson used this concept of PPF to explain an entire working of an economy. So PPF is very important and very indicative of what goods and services should be produced in the economy. The production possibility frontier demonstrates that there are or should be limits on production. Of course, because people want varieties of goods to consume in the economy. We want all kinds of goods and services. We don't want just only one kind of goods and services, and we need also all kinds of goods and services. So since the resources are constrained, we have to allocate resources specifically. We cannot allocate all resources to only one sector. We have to allocate the resources among various sectors. So there is limits on production. So an economy to achieve efficiency must decide what combination of goods and services they can and they should be produced, right? So PPF is graphically depicted as an arc. The shape of the PPF is usually concave to the origin, with one commodity represented on x-axis and the other represented on the y-axis. So PPF actually explains the working of an economy using a two-sector model, two-sector economy. Each point on the arc shows the most efficient number of the two commodities that can be produced with the available resources. So each point on the PPF actually signifies efficient allocation of resources. What does that mean? It means that all the resources have been used, and after using all the resources, what is the maximum possible amount of goods and services that can be produced in the economy? So let's see with the help of an example. And Autoland produces cars and trucks, and they have a certain amount of resources and workers. So Autoland के पास certain resources है, certain workers है, and Autoland को decide करना है कि किसमें कितना डालना है. कार production में कितना जाना चाहिए resources, and trucks production में कितना जाना चाहिए resources. So if Autoland uses all its production resources to make cars, it can produce 1 lakh. So if Autoland decides कर ले कि नहीं, सारे जो resources है economy में, workers है, laborers है, land है, जितना ही है, will only produce cars. In that case, economy can produce 1 lakh units of cars. Now, if Autoland uses all its resources in the other sector, like the truck sector, it can produce 80,000 trucks. But we do not need only cars, we do not need only trucks, right? So if the Autoland decides to allocate the resources equally, then it can produce 50,000 cars and 40,000 trucks. So accordingly, how the Autoland or an economy decides the proportion of resources that should be allocated in different sectors, the amount of goods and services that is produced in the economy gets decided. मतलब हमारे ऊपर डिपेंड करते हैं हम कितना रिसोर्सेज कौन सी सेक्टर पर ज्यादा देना चाहते हैं. इफ इम्पोर्टेंस ज्यादा है कि हम हेल्थ सेक्टर में ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंस देते हैं, देन मोर रिसोर्सेज हम हेल्थ सेक्टर पे लगाएंगे एंड लेस रिसोर्सेज हम किसी और सेक्टर पे अवेलेबल करें, विल अप्लाई दोस रिसोर्सेज, राइट? सो when we connect the dots of maximum production, we get a sloping line which shows the PPF. Let me show you. This is the PPF, which shows the maximum possible amount of cars and trucks that can be produced in an economy. So if all the resources are allocated to only car industry, so 100,000 can be produced, this 1 lakh. And if all the resources are allocated to trucks production, so 80,000 can be produced. And this is a line which shows that if resources gets allocated in both the sectors and both goods can be produced, right? Here we are saying that this curve is a negatively sloped linear curve, which means that there is constant opportunity cost, but in generally it is a concave curve we see. Okay. So when there is always a cost of having a little more of one good, and in terms of the other good that has to be foregone. This is known as the opportunity cost of an additional unit of the good. The slope of the PPF represents the opportunity cost of moving from one combination of goods to another. This is a very important point. Opportunity cost actually drives the shape of the PPF. What is opportunity cost? The economy has to decide which goods to produce and which goods to not produce right now, right? So economy when produces a good more, then the economy is giving up the production of some other good. That is the opportunity cost that the society has to face, because society will not be able to consume or produce that good because society is allocating resources to some other sector, right? For example, in a very simple example, if your mother says that you can have chocolates or ice cream, but you love to have both, but you cannot have both, you have to have an option, right? So it's a very hypothetical example, but you choose to have only chocolates and you give up 1 unit of ice cream. So you're giving up 1 unit of ice cream to get 1 unit of chocolates. That is the opportunity cost. And similarly, society also faces this kind of opportunity cost. Now, generally, the shape of the PPF is concave to the origin due to increasing opportunity costs. Now, why is it increasing? Because the resources that is there in the economy, जो resources है हमारे economy में, वो हर sector में इतना efficient नहीं हो पाते. Why? Because see, अगर labor जो agricultural sector पे काम करते हैं, अगर उस labor को use it in the industrial sector, उस लेबर इतना एफिशिएंट नहीं होगा because he is more efficient in the agricultural sector. Agricultural sector पे ज्यादा efficient था. तो when you are allocating resources from an agricultural sector say to an industrial sector, output तो बढ़ेगा क्योंकि we are increasing the factor of production, so output will rise. But output will rise at a decreasing rate. इतना ज्यादा नहीं बढ़ेगा जितना ज्यादा बढ़ना चाहिए, because वो जो लेबर है वो inefficient है, वो इतना अच्छे से काम नहीं जानते उस इंडस्ट्री का. So that is why there is an increasing opportunity cost involved. PPF can shift when there is an improvement in the level of technology or an increase in the amount of resources. For example, if we consider a point like this is very good for the economy. Economy can have more cars and more trucks, but economy cannot reach this point given the resource constraint. So economy can only reach this point if only and only the PPF bulges out and shifts. And when can that happen? It can happen in first case if there is a technological improvement in the economy. So with this improved technology, more goods can be produced, or if there is an increase in endowment. Suppose there's a migration of laborers or there's population rise in somehow, some reasons. So the PPF can move out, more production can take place, and welfare can be increased. Now, points inside the curve do not use maximum resources and points above the curve are unattainable. As we said, points above the curve are unattainable due to the resource constraint, and points inside the curve do not use maximum resources. That is, there is underutilization of resources. This is a very important point. Let's show you with an example. This is a PPF curve, concave PPF curve, which shows that A is a point which is lying entirely inside the PPF, right? Now, A is a point which can be achieved easily. We can produce this amount of cars and this amount of trucks, but we can produce more also. We can produce more and reach the PPF, right? So at A, there is underutilization of resources. We are not utilizing all the resources that the economy has. So already we have resource constraint. On top of that, we're not using all the resources. पहले ही हमारे resource ज़्यादा नहीं हो पाते, उससे भी ऊपर we are not using it. सारे resources हम use नहीं कर रहे. There are underutilization of resources. In that case, what happens? It signifies there is inefficiency in the market. Whereas C is a point, वो बहुत अच्छा point है, वो अगर economy reach कर पाए तो बहुत ही अच्छा होगा इकोनॉमी के लिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास कार्स भी ज्यादा होगा, ट्रक्स भी ज्यादा होगा, पर हम रीच नहीं कर पाएंगे. व्हाई? बिकॉज द पीपीएफ कैन नॉट शिफ्ट आउट until and unless there is a technological improvement, टेक्नोलॉजी इंप्रूव कर जाए, और there is an increase in endowment, फैक्टर्स रिसोर्सेज का ज्यादा फैक्टर्स आ जाए या ज्यादा रिसोर्सेज मिल जाए. So only in that cases it can reach C, right? Now if you have understood the concept of PPF, let's try to solve some problems. First question. Economic growth can be shown by a movement up the PPF, down the PPF, inward shift, or an outward shift. What do you think? It's a very simple question, and I just said it is an outward shift of the PPF. Why? It shows that if there is an outward shift of the PPF, the resources, the goods and services that can be produced will rise, and as a result that means that there is an economic growth happening, right? Second question. The opportunity cost of one good means what? The time required but not the monetary cost, the best alternative foregone, the total cost of production, or do you think it's none of the above? The answer is the best alternative foregone. As I said, I have to give up ice cream to have 1 unit of chocolate, or vice versa. So the economy has to give up some production of some other good to produce some important good, right? So that is the opportunity cost. And the last question, a point inside a PPF represents the point is unattainable, it is better than the points on the PPF, there is underutilization of resources, or is it none of the above? It represents underutilization of resources as discussed right now, and A is a point which lies just inside the PPF, and that implies that there is underutilization of the capacity that the economy has, right? Now, if you have understood the concept of production possibility frontier, you can test your conceptual learning through tests prepared by our expert educators through EduRev Infinity. So we have around 6,000 plus questions across subjects for you to practice, and you should practice to increase your scores through nationwide rankings with EduRev Infinity. Thank you for watching this video.